Person may remember enormous amounts of scripture, sermons, doctrines, conference talks, proof texts, and approved explanations, and still not know how to examine them critically. That kind of person can sound very informed because they can recall so much material. But recall is not the same as discernment. They may be able to quote verses all day long and still not ask basic questions like, what does this passage actually say in context? Does this interpretation match the words on the page? Is this conclusion inherited or demonstrated? Are two teachings contradicting each other? Is authority being used to avoid examination? That is why strong memory can sometimes make the problem worse. A person with a great memory can accumulate a massive storehouse of borrowed interpretations and then confuse possession of information with understanding. In religion, that can look like this. They remember every approved answer. They know the expected response to every question. They can repeat the institutional framing instantly. They can cite leaders, manuals, and familiar verses. But when asked to slow down, reason carefully, and test whether those answers are actually sound, they may have very little ability or willingness to do it. So what sounds like intelligence is sometimes just retrieval. That is one reason deeply conditioned religious people can be very hard to reason with. They often are not thinking through the issue fresh. They are accessing a memorized response structure. The mind goes to the stored answer before it goes to honest examination. This is also why deconstruction affects people differently. A person with memory but little reasoning may hold together fine as long as the system remains intact. But once contradictions appear, that person may either cling harder to memorized authority or collapse into confusion, because the framework was never deeply processed. It was stored, not really examined. By contrast, someone with growing discernment may go through a painful reconstruction but come out deeper, humbler, and more rooted in God, because the goal is no longer just to remember what they were told. The goal becomes learning how to see. So yes, a person can memorize scripture and still miss scripture. A person can remember doctrine and still not understand truth. A person can sound knowledgeable and still be almost entirely dependent on borrowed thinking. That is why spiritual maturity is not measured by how much a person can quote. It is measured by whether they can discern.